Okay, first off, I'd like to point out that you can see that we do not have budget numbers in here. We will have those next month because we are waiting for the audit to be completed and then those numbers to be finalized before we do this year's. You can see that on line number 1, our operating revenue and patronage capital for the month of January was $3,223,000. Our cost of purchase power was $2,291,000. That added to our line number 20, the total cost of electric service, $3,187,000, giving us a margin for the month of $35,791. Here we have the balance sheet. On the asset side, you can see that our total utility plant as of January 31st was $98,459,000. Our net utility plant was $75,781,000, giving us on line 29 a total assets and other debits of $92,238,000. On the liability side of our balance sheet, you can see that our long-term debt is at $55 million, and again, our debits and credits balance, total liabilities of $92,238,000. And I'd like to note that our equity as a percentage of our assets for the month was 35.19.
Yeah, we're trying to push that up. We've had growth continually, and we're still pushing.
Right. Okay, here is a breakdown of our cash. I have made that a little bit bigger just so it's easier to see. Our ending balance as of January 31st was $6,143,000, an increase from last month of $1,614,000. At the bottom, you can see the liabilities that we have against that: customer deposits, work order deposits, construction done, and refunds to the state, giving us a total available cash of $5,966,000.
Now, the difference on that cash from prior months, the $1.6 million, this is where we caught up in our cash from last year, where last year we were prepaying our energy. Now we're back to the regular, January's payment is paid the first part of February. So that's where we caught back up on our cash that we've been talking about all last year.
And we prepaid in order to avoid the requirement to have a letter of credit from CFC. And that was costing us $100,000 a year to have that letter of credit. So by prepaying, we avoided that. But it took us a year to catch up.
So it's $100,000 that we aren't spending.
That we
correct.
Here you can see that in January we received 19 connect fees for $28,448. Here's a breakdown of our accounts receivable. And as of February 19th, we had currently 21 arrangements for $2,974. Here's a breakdown of our long-term debt. You can see that we have a quarterly payment due on March 31st that will be paid in full and on time. Here is the breakdown, and here you can see the laddering effect that Delmer had talked about, and the different interest rates that we have, with our weighted average being 5.17. At the bottom is a breakdown of our bonds and the reserve account that we talked about. There's the $1.4 million there. We have a interest payment due in June on that for the $605,000, and that will be paid in full and on time.
If you notice that very last loan, the loan number 9 with CFC, it's at 5.9% interest. That reprices the first of next year, which we'll start looking at a little bit later on in this year, and hopefully we'll be able to get that 5.9 down into the 3-point range.
Can I mention one thing?
Yes.
Just what's shown there is the weighted interest rate of 5.17. That is in fact a stated interest rate. When I was talking earlier, I was talking about the effective interest rate, and because we're a cooperative and we pay you back our profits, the net effect is about 25 basis points. So I was speaking of the effective interest cost being about 4.8%. The stated is in fact 5.17.
And note that that reserve account in 2018, that $1.4 million, becomes available to us. We'll pay off the bonds. We'll have $1.4 million. You can use that to help pay off the bonds, or that money becomes available.
Or pay off the debt.
Or pay off the debt, yeah. Or
Okay, Here is the number of customers. As of January 31st, you will see that we finally broke 14,000 customers. This is pretty monumental. I looked back to see when we broke to 13,000, and it was December of 2007.
Wow.
So we have had an increase, and yay, we made 14,000.
Well, like the stock market, can we stay there?
No, we're gonna grow.
This is a breakdown of revenue by customer class. I made it a little larger so that it's easier to see. If you look here at the bottom of the page, you can see that for January, our monthly cost was at 6 cents, our monthly revenue was at 10 cents, and our 2013 average cost was at 6 cents. This is a graphical representation of our margins, and obviously we only have January for 2013, but we will be able to follow the trend across as we go throughout the year. Now, Steve,
Yeah, I did not see this document. Does any of the rest of you have this document?
Yes.
Have you seen it?
Yeah, I have that.
Okay, well then, actually, what we do with that document is we refer it to the auditor for future audit. I will ask.
If you do have a question on a check, though, we'll be happy to answer.
Yeah, if there's no questions on that, I would look for a motion to refer the monthly expenditures to future audit.
I'll make that motion.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Let's see, that takes us down to item I believe. Presentation of the 2013 draft budget to be presented for action in the March board meeting. So there'll be no action, this is a non-action
I
item.
just need the music.
This is just a review or introduction thereof.
This is our pro forma budget that we do on a yearly basis, and this is what we present to the board at the beginning of every year. Basically, the whole form down here is regulated by these few columns up here. So I'll just go through some of the things that we're predicting for 2013. Our energy sales growth rate for 2012, we sold 350,677 kilowatt hours. Based on the growth from 2011 to 2012, that was a 1.5% sales growth in kilowatt hours. So we are very conservative, I guess, on our revenue estimations. We feel that 2013 will be the same year or maybe better than 2012, but because we're being very conservative, we're estimating that 1.5 growth sales.
And so this 1.5 right here, multiply that and you get this.
And the next one down is our revenue per kilowatt hour sales is at 10 cents. Our cost of purchase power, kilowatt hours, and this is the purchases. We purchase more than we sell because of our line loss, is at about 6.5%. All other expenses are 4% increase, and our depreciation is based on an 8% increase. And that's based on actual increases in our plant. So if we go down through the numbers here, we're estimating 2013 to have 355 million kilowatt hour sales. Based on the 10 cents, that would be $35,840,000. Our other electric revenue, we're basing it on a 1%, and that's connect fees, substation fees, penalties, things like that. And we're just basing that on, again, a very conservative 1%.
We want to mention here those 80 meters that we connected in January is almost 1% growth in our residential customers in 1 month.
So this could be a very conservative number.
Very,
Yes.
very conservative, yes.
Good.
And our patronage capital on a yearly basis, it is on a declining basis because we're getting paid back, so then there's less for the next year. So we're estimating about 200,000, and that's from CFC, SCDC, and Federated Insurance. Now, based on our 355 million kilowatt hour sales, we're gonna have to purchase 384 million kilowatt hours. And that's based on 6.5% approximately, or 24,922,000 in cost for purchase power. We have our transmission costs, distribution, consumer accounts, and administrative in general. All of these are based on the 4% increase. And
Now,
our,
the cost of purchase power, is that the, did you just figure out this is the contracted amount that we
Yes,
have? And
yes.
so that's basically a fixed number since we have
Right.
all energy contracts.
the only thing that would change that, of course, if we sell more, then we're gonna buy more.
And the hydro, they're making corrections to that on a monthly basis, sometimes on a bi-weekly basis. What's available depending upon how much water they're releasing downstream. So we come close estimating what our hydro is gonna be, but we don't have an exact on that because it's run of the river through Hoover Dam, so.
Now, the depreciation is based again on the 8% increase. Interest on bonds and interest on CFC loans is actual based on their amortization schedules. And last year, we had an interest income of $21,900, so we just estimated that at the 1% increase. And other deductions, this is just kind of based on historical, this is what it approximately is. So we're looking at a margin of 2013 of 1.1 million, and it's showing the debt service coverage of 1.25 and 1.20. But again, these are based on very conservative numbers. I went through
Well,
and...
that 125 number, isn't that the one that we're trying to reach to satisfy the bond issue?
Yes, we.
Yes.
Go get to 1.35.
135. Those should be 135 and 125.
If the growth continues throughout the year, should reach that quite easily.
Right.
And I don't want to curse this, but if we had a really hot summer, weather plays a huge part in what our sales are.
I did a calculation earlier, and this is based on 1.5%. If we have an additional 1%, which we've already seen in January, then if we sell 359,500,000, we can put this in because this calculation goes all the way through. Then if we come down to the bottom line here, we'll be at 1.32 and 1.27. Right at exactly what we need for debt service coverage. And this is more of probably a realistic number of what's gonna happen, but I like to do conservative numbers. And
Did I misread that bond downgrading? I thought it said that they were looking for us to get to a 125.
They want us, that's the debt service coverage. The modified debt service
Oh,
coverage
okay.
is CFC. The debt service coverage is the bonds.
Right.
And it's just the way they calculate them. They calculate them each a little different, so.
Well, what was the reason for this downgrade of our bonds?
It followed the earlier downgrade by Fitch.
Fitch, right.
And Moody's. They do it every other year, and
What are their
reasonings? The potential for growth, obviously. That was one of them. They said it's slow growth. They didn't see any improvement there.
Isn't that the trend on the
Our
entire?
debt service coverage was below required, and our cash had dropped, but they did not know about the prepayment, and so they didn't have to put that into effect.
The general trend in other utilities though is the same story, they're all being.
That's probably
I
a,
really don't
Yeah.
know. I don't know.
we can only speak to our trend, I guess.
Yeah.
Although if you look at our change, we were at less than 1% debt service coverage, and we've recovered somewhat every year. Now, there was a decision by the board that let's see if there's going to be some growth before we raise the rate. And when that growth did not occur, we fell below those thresholds. The idea being we do not want to add an additional financial burden on recovery. And when the growth did not occur, we had to act then to increase our rates. And the obligation is to have rates in place that can reasonably be expected to generate those coverages. And we believe those rates are in place that can reasonably be expected to recover or generate those debt service coverages. The budget we're looking at, we want to be kind of a worst case scenario, we think. And it's like any numbers, you torture them until they tell you what they want. We're trying to be realistic in a very conservative manner.
Could you really come and take a look at your financial situation on a periodic basis and say, okay, we're bringing you up now to
Once a year.
once a year?
And they did, in the rating, if you look it up, it talks about the things that are positive about the district. The ability to raise rates, some growth, and some other things. I mean, they try to be balanced, but if they don't have all the details about the cash prepayments and that kind of thing, then they're not gonna be accurate.
Well, even with this conservative approach, we will by the end of the year, or should by the end of the year, be where we belong.
Yes.
Yes.
Where do they get their information? Do they come to you and say, give me, your
They call us on the
on
phone.
the phone?
And we send them this same Form 7 that you received,
Right.
and that's what they generate. And then they call with a list of questions. We get on the phone and answer some of their questions. Where it becomes material is if we were going out to issue another set of bonds. The rating agencies, the bond purchasers would look at that rating and go, we're going to require a little higher interest rate because of that. But we're not looking to borrow any funds in the near future. So we have time to recover that rating before we look. 2018, we'd like to be in nice shape there, and just my recommendation at this point is that you'll want to look at all the options available to you, but some kind of laddered program with CFC will probably provide you with the best financial picture. So, but that's 5 years from now, so a lot can happen between.
And these are, again, on our draft numbers for 2012. We haven't got the final numbers from the auditor, but I don't expect any major changes. We've talked to him, and he doesn't see anything that he's going to be needing to change. I did have one other.
Maybe we should go over one change that he's talking about doing that is something we've done historical but is not common with utilities. Our purchase power looks at from January 1 to December 31st. But our revenue for the last 2 weeks of the year does not get billed and paid until the next year. In the past, we've always done a balancing up of those. He finds that to be a bit arcane and we're recommending to change that program to where you just, once you've done it, you move forward, the numbers just naturally roll into place, but it will make a bit of a change to the numbers on the bottom line. And he would like to recommend that. We think it's a good idea. It saves a lot of accounting time and falls more in line with what the rest of the industry does.
So this 24 million of purchase power, that's for 1 year period? You make an agreement with those two
For the year.
entities for the year and say, okay, this is the rate we get the power at for this year.
Uh-huh.
And then the next year, if you go to them again, the condition of change, it may go up or it may go down.
We've locked in the price with the APS portion.
Public service.
That's locked in. The hydro is subject to change on availability, and every year they do it's an at-cost resource, so every year they analyze what their costs are, and you can see some changes in the hydro cost each year. But our firm delivered power, which is always going to be more expensive than the market because it is firm and guaranteed, is locked in out through 2018, or out through 2017.
So it's 5 years then.
We have a 5-year guaranteed contract for a set amount. And that amount was determined to be basically our base loaded amount. Our hydro then tends to be the amount that fills in our peaking and, so.
Out of our 90 megawatts, then the hydro is maybe a couple megawatts, or?
The hydro is about 25 to 28 megawatts of that is hydro. But your hydro only comes in at about 30% load factor. So you don't get 100% of the energy with it. So that is turned over to Nevada Power as the area control, and that dynamic signal is used and it's assumed to be used to our benefit.